Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Former State Representative Jeff Smith of Eau Claire is the Democratic candidate in the 31st Senate District. Jeff, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Thanks.
You represented Eau Claire when you were in the Assembly. Now you're going for the Senate. Biggest issue in this election cycle in Senate District 31?
Wow, there's a lot of issues. Rural Wisconsin is faced with a lot of special issues, including how we're going to keep rural public schools open and operating. That's really a big deal. You hear everywhere. Access to health care, that's probably not just rural, that's everywhere. So we can talk about those issues, including broadband expansion is huge in rural Wisconsin. We can't do a lot of things. We can't start new businesses oftentimes, and we're having brain drain partly because the young people have to go somewhere else because they can't get that access to broadband. But in the end, when I talk to people and we go through the issues like that, the one thing that always comes up as they get into the conversation is they're tired of the partisanship. And if we don't get past that and figure out how we're going to govern as a two-party system and come to some operating procedure of working together, we're not going to get a lot of things done.
Let's talk about health care. How do we protect and expand health care in the rural areas of Wisconsin?
Well, there's potential. First of all, there has to be the willingness to actually maybe step out of the box. We need clinics and hospitals that are accessible to people that are closer than an hour away, especially for emergency purposes. But just having clinics available to people so that they have wellness, checks and all the things that go with it. So I think there's potential, for instance, if there's motivation by our major hospitals to set up clinics and have regular procedures of visits by doctors and patients. But maybe if that's not going to happen, maybe we need to look at other ways, like out of the box. Even particularly, you can talk about electric co-ops who cover all of our rural areas already. Maybe they should be investing in that sort of thing. Like, in fact, broadband is another issue I think that they should be investing in, but maybe also clinics for our rural their rural customers.
Does state government have an obligation to retain and recruit doctors and nurses and other medical professionals?
Well, we're supposed to have a system of healthcare that's nonprofit, and I don't know. I think government has a role in that. Government's nonprofit as well. But what's that role? I don't know. Taking pressure off of our large hospitals. There was more control over these things years ago, and they removed a lot of that control. And look at where we are now. When you allow the large operations or corporations to take control of things, they necessarily aren't looking out for the greater good. They're looking out for where they're going to be able to operate best and bring in the money to support the program or the things that they do.
State government and Delta Dental have a program that subsidizes dental clinics in some underserved areas. Yeah. Should that be a priority in the next Medicaid budget?
It really should. It really should. It's worked well in some instances. I know that. It's amazing actually when you see the stories of the days that they will announce, we're going to be here this day, and these dentists are coming in and providing their services for free, and they just get lines of people showing up. That tells you that there's a desperate need for that service, and so we've got to figure out how to provide that.
Local governments have been operating under levy limits for about 15 years. Some local leaders say that hurts their ability to provide services. Do we keep levy limits, dial them back, or get rid of them?
That's a pet peeve of mine, Steve. I'll tell you.
It's on your website. I noticed.
I'll tell you. I think if there is an overarching issue out there, particularly for rural Wisconsin. It's the lack of local control and the taking away of all local control. And the words local control are overused. Let's talk about the fact that we elect local officials just like we elect legislators or congresspeople. They are elected by the same constituency, and they should have the ability to make the policy decisions that they're elected to do. People have a better grasp of local government. They can show up at those meetings. They can come to those town board meetings and those county board meetings, and they expect that their dollars that are spent should be brought back to the local government, municipality, so that they can fix their road in front of their house. They can provide for that police and fire protection, and their schools can continue to stay open. I think at all levels, all of those levels, we need to remove those limits. Let those elected officials be the governing and decision makers that they were elected to be. They know what's best, and it's what's best here in my district in the western Wisconsin isn't always the same thing that's the best over in eastern Wisconsin or northern or southern Wisconsin. We need to have a lot more flexibility and levity when it comes to making those decisions. I don't care if it's, in fact, I would even go so far as to say we should be able to allow our municipalities to determine what a living wage is, what that minimum wage should be. It's different everywhere you go.
I know we discussed that in our pre-primary interview, but it's so important. How would you pay for highways?
How would I pay for highways?
Yeah, bridges,
That's a good question. There's a lot of ideas out there, and it's going to be a combination of these things. We never should have, the legislature, and that was before I was there, close to when I was there, but it was I think 2005 that they removed the automatic indexing of gas. You hear over and over and over, even the legislators who were there who say that was a big mistake. Should never have happened. Let's face it, legislators are cowards when it comes to raising taxes. That was a protection for them, that they wouldn't have to take a vote on raising taxes because it automatically happened. What they were thinking of, I don't know, that they took away that protection of theirs. That needs to be restored. We need to set that gas tax where it should be now and then have an automatic indexing on that. That's one. The other ideas that I like are registering our cars and vehicles. We have pretty low registration fees in this
$75.
state.
You and I pay that
on whatever vehicle you have, no matter what the value of that vehicle. I like the idea of value registration, basing it on the value. What someone pays for their registration at a $50,000 vehicle should be different than what you're paying for a $2,000 vehicle.
Could you vote to raise a gas tax?
I could.
You could.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty popular idea right now. I'm hearing it all the time.
What about tolling?
I think that's going to take a lot of discussion, and I think it's going to have to, and that discussion has to come from the public. If they're open to that, then we should be open to that, just like anything else. That's what we're there to do, is to represent their thoughts on these things. But on the other hand, I can see where it's where it could be a beneficial thing because anyone driving those roads, including just passing through our state or coming here to visit our state or coming to do business in our state, then we are going to have them help us pay for the roads. I could see why that's an idea out there. So again, it's going to be a combination of all these things.
We're spending up to $100 million in school safety grants. Is it enough, or do we need to change gun laws?
We need to change gun laws.
How?
We need smart, sensible regulation. I recently was talking to a woman at a door who told me, she started out saying, I'm a concealed carry person and really believe in it. And I'm thinking, right away, I'm getting my own biases in my head of who I'm talking to. And then she went down the road of, can you believe they're trying to take away the registration of concealed carry, that they were just going to open it up? She couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
She said she thinks that everyone needs training. Of course they do. And then she went on to say she's a huge gun collector, and she believes every one of her guns should be registered. And they should be. And they should be registered, and we should have the private sales. We should have these gun shows. I'm an auction goer. I love to go to auctions, and I see it all the time. I mean, The sales of guns at auctions are sky high. I can never myself justify buying one there because it's higher than retail, because people don't have to register them there. And that's really wrong.
There's no background checks.
There's no background checks there. So we need to have background checks. We need, all guns need to be registered. And I know a lot of people get, they get a shiver down their back about that, but let's face it, you register your car, you get a license to drive your car, you're already registered for in a lot of different ways throughout the state. People know who you are and where you live and all of those things. So let's not have a fear for this sort of registration. I'm born and raised hunter myself. I have guns. This is not about, I'm not afraid of someone taking away my guns, but it bothers me that certain individuals can sell to other individuals can sell. Pretty soon we lose track. We don't know who has a gun and what their uses are for it.
The current state budget, as you know, did increase spending for K-12 public schools. Is it enough, or do we need another big increase in the next budget?
Steve, we've got to readdress the voucher program. The so-called parental choice program isn't working. It's now statewide, as you know. It's a scam. I know it's a scam. It takes the money right off the top. People don't even understand how it works, but it takes voucher schools or students get the money before the public schools do. They take it off the top, and then what's left goes back to public schools. It isn't so much that we don't have the money, it's that our priorities are wrong. Other thing that people don't realize is the guaranteed dollar that goes into a voucher, and I think it's up over $8,000 now, around $8,500 or something like that. Whereas if you go and check all the school districts in my district, I think Alma is at about $1,700 per student they're getting back from the state. I think Pepin is almost zero. I think they're about $500 per student. Here in Eau Claire even, we're only around $6,000 per student, which is a large school district. So when a student gets a voucher, this district has to make up the difference between that $8,500 and what they're getting from the state. The taxpayers are the ones getting fleeced, and they don't realize how that system is working.
Would you keep choice for Milwaukee?
Or
end it entirely?
Back to how I think back to the local control issue. Yep. I think that it's different in different places. I know that there are legislators who really still want to believe that that's a system that could work in Milwaukee. It hasn't worked, I would argue. It hasn't worked. Nothing's changed, and nothing's gotten better. Taking money away from the public system only hurts the public system. It doesn't help the kids. So that would be my argument, but I am definitely far enough away from Milwaukee that I'm open to listen to what the public officials there would tell me. 2
of our prisons were built in the 1800s. There's a debate over whether we need a new state prison. Do we?
Well, I just saw a quote from Tommy Thompson saying that he really, truly regrets having built so many prisons in the state of Wisconsin and understands that we should have put money and put our efforts into treatment rather than prisons. I applaud him for saying that. Not enough politicians will admit when they made a mistake. And so with that in mind, I think we need to look at how many prisons do we have? And do we need to continue to build prisons? I don't think so. I think that we need to look at how we're going to bring our model closer to what Minnesota has so that we aren't imprisoning more than double the number of citizens that Minnesota does with the same type of population. Something's wrong in Wisconsin. There was a plan floated in August to give Kimberly-Clark, a Wisconsin company, the same tax breaks and incentives as Foxconn. Your thoughts on that? Isn't that the Pandora box that we've opened up? We should never have done what we did with Foxconn. We gave them a free rein to do anything that they wanted to without environmental protections. Look at what's happened now this week. That whole area that 26 acres that they built on that were wetlands is now flooded. What are they going to do? How are they going to build on that? And so the tax credit's the same thing. So we should turn around and do this for everybody. Of course, you can see the argument. We knew that was coming, that you can't just do it for one and not for another. Well, we should never have done it for one. And I would argue we need to revisit that as much as we can and figure out how we're going to have to fix this. But $4.5 billion into tax credits to one company, and then all of these other benefits we gave them for people from Illinois to get a job, it's disgraceful, and we know we should not go down that road of building on a mistake.
Time to legalize medical or recreational marijuana, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
On both counts?
Yes, it is. I truly believe we need to decriminalize that. That's all part of the loading up our prisons that we've done over the last 25 to 30 years. It's all it is breaking up families, not fixing any problems. And by the way, and it isn't that I don't have a couple beers here and there, but if we're going to think that it's okay to have recreational alcohol, whereas marijuana isn't any different, why are we picking on one population when we're glamorizing the other?
Why are you calling for a moratorium on CAFOs on your campaign website?
We have to. This is out of control. The DNR is not able to control it. Our legislators and governor are pulling them back, not letting them to do the things they need to do because our water is getting poisoned. This is right around me. I'm in rural Eau Claire County. I've got a CAFO not that many miles away from me that we spend a lot of time trying to stop. And when they have less and less oversight, because in the law right now it's written that they are themselves to police themselves. It's not, or regulate themselves. That's not how it should work. So we need moratorium because we need greater studies on the effects of what happens when you spread manure and the nitrate factor into the groundwater. And when we have better studies out there statewide and be able to map the state for how the soils and the bedrock and all the things that go with it, we don't need to have more Kewaunee counties where almost 40% of the private wells there now are contaminated because of the 6 or 7 CAFOs that are in that county.
Final question. 31st Senate District seat is open. Differences between you and the Republican you'll be facing on November 6th?
Well, I think I just focus on myself and my own experience. I have the experience to go back and work with both sides. I think even Republicans who served with me at the time they told me themselves, geez, it's too bad we lost you. You were a good guy, because I have that ability to work with everybody and listen to everybody. I'm not going to say much about my opponent. I don't really know him well enough to be critical. All I know is what I can do, and I know what I stand for. And I'm doing this because I have never actually left the scene, because my kids' future is at stake in the state of Wisconsin, and all the other generations behind me and behind them. We need to do a lot better job of making sure that we're leaving behind a clean Wisconsin, a Wisconsin of opportunity, a beautiful Wisconsin. And if you travel around the 31st Senate District, it is the most beautiful area in the world. And we need to be sure that what we're leaving behind it remains that way.
Jeff Smith of Eau Claire is a Democratic candidate in the 31st Senate District. The election is November 6th. Jeff, thanks for again talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.